Divine Feminine, your truest, fullest expression of all of who you are, all of your aspects, is what makes up your soul song, your core soul frequency. So, all of your experiences that you've gone through, all of the things that you've worked through, all of the things that make you uniquely you are your purpose. You being you sharing that core soul frequency soul song out into the world. And what's coming through from the higher energies, from the collective higher selves, is the number one thing that is holding the divine feminines back from this fullest, truest expression is fear. And these fears are understandable given everything that the divine feminines have experienced in this lifetime, but also going back eons into past lives through the ancestral lines. But we are also here as divine sacred feminines. You're here to find solutions to these fears so that your core soul song can be fully experienced, so that you can fully sing and express who you are for yourself first. Usually, that's the number one way to work through some fears, is to really get to know these parts of yourself, to feel safe with all of those parts of you, to get to know you, to feel confident and comfortable in those parts of you, and then decide how you want to share them in the world. That feels important, that first you're doing it for you. And so, some of the top ways that you can focus on these things are things you've probably heard of, things you're probably actually doing, but we want to talk about them in the context of that responsibility for yourself, creating your own safety and being able to find solutions to the things that may be holding you back from being all of who you are, or maybe even receiving the very things that you have been praying for and asking for. Because the deeper I dropped into this energy around the soul song, what came up was actually where there's a fear deep in the heart space around actually getting the love, the cherishing, the care, the nourishment that the feminines are wanting to receive. And what came through is that part of this is because of experience after experience that put you into hypervigilance or not being able to feel that you can drop into receptivity. And that's why we're going to focus on the solutions, okay? And what you can do to work within yourself. This fear, how it was presenting, was that truly dropping into the thought of actually even receiving divine masculine in their fullest form actually brought up some fears in the feminine's heart space, not because the feminines don't deserve it or want it, but because so much time has been spent learning how to mitigate the shadows, learning how to prepare to deal with things that weren't up to the standards, right? Like spending so much time learning boundaries, learning standards, and not necessarily having as many or any experiences with truly fully healthy masculine interactions and energies, especially in a romantic sense. Now, of course, this does not mean that you are not doing that, but either way, no matter what's happening for you, if you are feeling like things aren't quite where you want them, this could be a space for you to look into for yourself. And I'm bringing it up not as a any sort of judgment. This is actually a natural, healthy energy that was there to protect you during a time when you were required to protect that part of yourself and your heart. This is more now about saying, now you know how to care for yourself much clearer. And so you can start to go into those parts of yourself, parts of your heart that may be much more tender and vulnerable, so that you can bring the deeper healing that will allow you to be receptive to receive what it is you've been asking for. So, of course, the number one thing is setting those standards and boundaries for yourself, not only with the masculines, but with everyone in your life: family, friends, coworkers, bosses, neighbors, right? Like where you're really embodying into the standards and you're doing it in a way where you're not having to come from anger or frustration. It doesn't mean you never feel those things, but the more confident and comfortable you get within yourself, the more you're holding your standards, the easier it becomes to simply just be in the standards and allow everyone else to do what they're doing, and then decide how you're going to participate or not. Through the process of embodying your standards and boundaries, you may go through different iterations where you are more firm and maybe even intense or angry around setting those boundaries. And I'll say this, that's okay. If that's what needs to happen to help you embody those at that time, this is a process. So, however, you need to take care of yourself to get to where you're going, go ahead and allow yourself to do what you feel you need to do in each moment. The guide, the goal is to eventually get to a place in a space where that trigger, where that anger is no longer what is leading you, and you're embodying again into a relaxed standard. And that, what I mean by that is where the standard is so embodied by you, you no longer have to be hyper vigilant around it. You just are it. And therefore, people in the world are responding to it. And I'm bringing it to you in this way because these experiences, this embodiment is not black and white. And we can understand that we want to get to the places and spaces of being tempered, of being embodied, of being able to hold that space and grace for ourselves and others in a very divine, sacred, feminine, embodied way. But the pathway to get there does not always look pretty or perfect. And so, if you are experiencing frustration and anger along the way, work with where you are. This isn't about skipping steps, it's about embodying them. And so, when we start out on this journey and we are realizing where we didn't have boundaries or where we were not holding ourselves, we can experience anger and frustration and rage and sadness, sometimes for the world that treated us that way, sometimes for ourselves that we allowed that to happen. And then you realized you were just trying to survive. And so the grace can set back in. But the entire point is whatever process supports you in getting to the place in the space where you can be embodied with the standards in a tempered manner is the one that you want to walk. Because sometimes we hear these goals, okay, getting to the point of being tempered and being able to hold it all. That sounds great. But sometimes where the disconnect can happen and a deeper frustration sets in is where we're experiencing the emotions and pain and the realizations of the use or the abuse that we've encountered, or maybe even in some cases that we've doled out to other people. That can sometimes be a lot to sit with and a lot to process, but it's part of the process that is helping you to ultimately get to the place where you're living those embodied standards. Okay. So this isn't a race. This isn't about it looking perfect. It isn't about having it all figured out from the minute that you hear the goal of tempering your energies. It's about the journey that supports you with listening to your emotions, listening to who you are, experiencing all of that, and then moving to the other side of it. And I recently did a video around healthy ways to process your anger and frustration. I'm going to put that in the pinned comment because it's not about suppressing it, but it is about finding healthy ways to honor it, process it, and integrate it so you can be free of those patterns and the pain and actually, again, feel comfortable enough in your standards and boundaries that you feel safe enough to open up, to be receptive, to receive new things and the new experiences that you actually do deserve. Okay. Now, number two is holding yourself accountable to your own standards and to yourself. So the ways that you want people to treat you are the ways that you're treating yourself. Okay. The way that you want to experience relationships is, again, not only how you're treating yourself, but how you are going into relationship. So an example would be if you want someone to be fully, genuinely truthful and honest with you all of the time, even if it's uncomfortable, because you would rather be able to deal with the truth than have to sort through half truths, which for me, I very much feel that way. It's very important that we are being fully honest with ourselves, clearing up any places where we may have been dissociating or bypassing in the past. Again, we're not going to judge it because that was what we had to do to survive. And we're living in a world of bypassing and dissociating away from truth, or at least we were. There's a lot more truth coming to the surface and being accepted now, which is supportive for all of this process. But again, you're going to give yourself space and grace to go through this process because awakening yourself to things that you may have dissociated from in the past can be shocking, or you can find that there's shock to thaw out. There's aspects of yourself that need love and attention, say your inner child or your inner feminine or inner masculine. All depends on your circumstances. But the important part of holding yourself accountable to the very things that you want is a gift on multiple levels, because holding yourself to that accountability will help you find those blind spots that you may have not even been able to see. And through that process, you may see mirror points of why people were mirroring things to you, not because you necessarily deserved them, but there was ways you were dissociating and not even seeing where you weren't loving yourself, maybe even places and spaces where you were betraying yourself. So it's a very deep process when we are going through our own accountability of looking at all of the truth of who we are, all of how we may have participated or sabotaged ourselves. Again, without judgment, we did the best that we could. And the beauty of this is you hold yourself accountable and you start to realize why you did what you did. It actually helps you have more compassion for yourself, but also more compassion for others. And when you can hold more compassion for yourself and others, it also becomes easier to hold accountability without judgment and without disrespect to yourself or anyone else. You're simply holding yourself accountable to your own standards, and you're embodying deeper levels of holding that self accountability and being honest with yourself And so it becomes easier again to look at what people are actually going through or what they might be experiencing. This isn't to excuse poor behavior. It's about understanding and having compassion where that may come from so that we can hold accountability without judgment, which people tend to respond to much better, especially when you have done the work of holding yourself accountable, because you're not holding judgment for yourself, you're holding compassion for yourself. You can hold it for them again and hold the accountability. I know it might sound like I'm repeating in a way, but it feels really important to acknowledge the circles of these processes and how we get the mirrors from the external world that are showing us where to shore up our standards, where to be accountable, where to take care of ourselves. But it's also, as we do that within ourselves, showing us how we can hold that with others as well, so that when we're holding them accountable, but without judgment, they are actually safe to say, you know what? Man, maybe I have some shadows to look at. Maybe I do have some things to be accountable for. And they come to it on their own because they feel safer. They don't feel judged or ridiculed. They're seeing that it's all just part of being human and that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay for us to learn, no matter how old we are, no matter how much we've gone through. It's okay to say, you know what, I made mistakes. I didn't know then. I couldn't know what I didn't know. You can't know what you don't know till you know it. But it's also okay to sort through this and find solutions. Okay. These energies, as you embody them for yourself, allow you to share that core soul song into the world as you find solutions for ways you sabotaged yourself or bypassed or betrayed yourself. You again are now holding those codes, those frequencies, those songs, and they get to play out into the world. All right. And why all of this is so important. Number three, your capacity to feel safe enough within yourself to trust yourself allows you to actually start to be receptive to receiving the very things you have been working for and the things that are aligned for you now. And what this does is you start to retrain your system because you're treating yourself with love and grace and respect and accountability. You're now holding that frequency within. And you're noticing that when you open up, you're taking care of yourself, you're respecting other people, you're setting standards, you're setting boundaries, you're noticing that you have the capacity to process and hold experiences in new and deeper ways that you hadn't been able to in the past. You're noticing that your nervous system is calmer, and even if you do get triggered or have an intense time, you're noticing that you have gifts and skills and tools to work with those. Or at the very least, you realize, whoa, I'm triggered. Let me go take a break and get this under wraps and then decide how I want to move forward. Right. And these are all signals and signs that you feel more and more safe to play more of your core soul song and frequency into the world just by being you. That's the beauty of this core soul song. And this is coming up because this core soul frequency, the true essence of you, is, of course, what you've been unburying and learning to embody. But it's also what so many of us, not just as divine feminines, but as humans, masculines, feminines, however you identify. But this wanted to come through for the feminines in particular today. But where none of us felt safe to be who we were, where we were taught to listen to what everyone else was saying or doing, or what the adults told us to do, or what the higher authority of the collective or the matrix or the overlay or the systems were telling us to do or be, or how to act or how to look, how to sound, how to dress, all of those things. And those are just the surface things, right? Because we learned how to hide ourselves if we weren't understood, if we were misunderstood, or we're even dealing with ancestral fears around hiding our gifts, our abilities of being intuitive or artist, being an artist and sharing your voice and your expression. There are lots of different things. I'm sure you guys could list them for days in the comments, ways that you have felt squished. If you want to, put one down there. Put it, this is how I was squished in the past. This is how I suppressed my soul song in the past. But this is how I'm going to honor my soul song now. This is how I'm going to start allowing myself to get to express these parts of myself, where I'm going to commit to opening up, to facing the fears that may have been keeping me small and quiet, or away from receiving the care, the love, the respect, the reciprocity that I have been working for and that I so deeply know deep down that I deserve. In each and every one of you that allows this to open and allows this song to be sung, to be expressed, you're actually sending out those frequencies in the airways to touch in on all of the things that actually do align with you. Okay. And so all of this came up because I did a member video and this came up, and I said I was going to do a recorded session for supporting the uncensoring of the soul song. And I started to record that yesterday, but it became so clear that more wanted to open up, that more needed to be acknowledged. And I wanted to share this message with you to just bring the awareness of your internal gifts, your song, your frequency, to confirm that the ways that you've been supporting yourself are right in alignment with helping you to step into your purpose of being who you are, and also maybe touch in on some supports that might help you shore up some vulnerabilities or weak spots that you're wanting to work on. Okay. So I do believe I will be doing a session, maybe potentially even a series around this topic. I would love to hear from you what you know about the Core Souls song, and anything you want to talk about. I would love to hear from you. I really hope that you found this helpful, and I will see you soon. Much love. Take care. Bye.